Teamwork Arts podcast. The idea here is to go behind the scenes and try to figure out the thoughts behind the actions of the people who create the art. And today, of course, we have Ashutosh Sharma with us. Now, Ashutosh, I know, hates labels, but for the sake of clarity, co-founder of Amaras Records and the Amaras Society for Performing Arts, which has brought to us the likes of Badmer Boys and now Rahmat-e-Nusrat. He's been passionate in the face of a lot of adversity. It was when did the idea of, first of course, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us, Ashu.
Thank you for having me.
And the story I know is a very interesting one about how Amaras Records started. So why don't you tell us about that a little first?
Well, it started trying to, out of frustration that there was no decent music available. And then it just so happened that I was trying to salvage some band. And for that I had to get in touch with a label who had the rights. So I couldn't get in touch with them from the travel agency that I was running.
Sure.
So, like a true Punjabi, you do things first and think much later. I just decided, okay, let's start a record label, called up Ankur in the US, is starting a label. And
Ankur, of course, Ankur Malhotra, the other man behind the thought.
Yeah, so someone who we've grown together and been listening to music since childhood, basically.
Right.
So the idea just came and it was just there, and then it started. We tried to salvage the band. That didn't happen, but a label was formed.
It was and a very interesting band it was that you tried to salvage. No, what band was that, Ashu?
So that was Mikal Hassan Band.
The Mikal Hassan Band, which had the absolutely fabulous Javed Bashir singing for them and Mikal Hassan on the guitar. It had become quite a phenomenon, but out of that phenomenon actually came out Amaras Records.
Yeah, it was strange, but it happened like that. That was the way the events took place. It was quite funny because as I said, that entire project didn't take off, and then we were left with a label, and then things started moving again through a bit through the travel side, because we were handling work for the Seduction, and then we launched the label with releasing that album.
This, of course, was Manganiyar Seduction, Royston label, of course.
Yeah, so right. Then we launched the label in 2010 with a show at Purana Killa.
Right.
So, and that's now it's been 11 years now.
11 years.
And almost 20 albums down.
And because you've never really believed in doing things the normal way, you actually took an 8-track, put it in the back of the car and drove straight into the interiors of Rajasthan to figure out the legends who people didn't really know. I mean, I personally got to know of Rukma Bai because of Amaras Records. I personally got to know about Via Farka Ture and his associations because of Amaras Records. So, not an easy way to actually try and get more music out of the country, is it?
We always felt that it was not going to be easy, but it was not going to be difficult either. It just required some time. We always believe that good music works. It will just take time because it's not it's not popular music. Right. So for us, the launch was quite a kind of a wake up call, because we launched the label. We had about 4,000 people at Purana Killa. We made it to Time Magazine, music of the photos of the week, and so on. But 4,000 people came in. They knew of the director of the production, and before the show. After the show, they got to know, okay, he's done this. Some people knew about him as well, and everybody else also got to know about this new label called Amaras. What was shocking was that not a single person went back home knowing the name of any artist.
That's a great point.
which is the like kind of a slap on our face in that kind of wake up moment for us.
Sure.
That and we realize that is the situation in the entire folk space in the country.
For sure.
Unless the artist makes it to Bollywood or something and has one big hit, Bollywood hit.
Of course.
Otherwise, they are purely known in a regional space and not even across the country. So that's when we then went in and tried to do field recordings and initial albums. A friend of mine sent his old. He's a radio journalist.
Right.
So he asked me, "What are you recording on?" I'm like, "Whatever I have, I don't know." So we're carrying some stuff, and then he sent me his old tape field recorder. So the first two albums were actually 2-track analog, single takes in the field.
And this was Rukma Bai, wasn't
This
it?
was Rukma Bai, and that the albums were Mitha Bol and Banko Ghoda. And the idea was, just put it was like various artists, but all we did was put their names and their photographs. Because that's how you identify a face, a name and the sound.
And Rukma Bai's story is a fantastic one. The first female Manganiyar, actually, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was the first female Manganiya. I mean, we got to know about her during our field work and so on, and everybody said you must record her and so on. And we got to know that she was the first female to sing in public, and her story was a crazy one. She had polio on both her legs. Widowed, I think, at a very young age. Eventually, by the time she finally performed in public, she used to piggyback on her mother or to get on stage. Because she couldn't afford a wheelchair or anything for that.
And there was strong stigma as well, you told me.
Yeah, I mean, everybody basically, we were getting mixed signals. Somebody told us she's passed away, somebody told us she's gone, not in her village, so don't go there. Because mainly, a lot of people still believe that it was not the done thing that she sang in public. I mean, eventually we know of that she sang on BBC Radio and so on. But sadly, those were the last three proper, or you can say one of the few recording that exist of her. I mean,
And this was actually the turn of the century, wasn't it? This was, I think, 2000, wasn't it?
This was 2010 December when we recorded her, and we launched the label in November. In about a week's time, we drove in basically to do these field recordings.
Sure.
And finally recorded her in that time. By the time we were mixing and mastering those songs that we had done in July in 2011, we got the news that she had passed away. So,
And of course, you seem to have made a habit of getting people to know about some of the greatest artists that no one knows about. Sakarji, of course, who I've had the privilege of interviewing because of you. Arguably one of the greatest Sindhi. He was the Kamaicha player, actually. One of the greatest of the art form, so to speak. Everyone used to joke that उन्होंने शादी Kamaicha से की है. And I remember the interview that we had done, and he was not bothered. He was not bothered about what we were asking him or what the answer. He was only bothered about tuning the Kamaicha right, and he got the Padma Shri as well. Did that happen before or after you'd started recording?
It happened after we started recording. I think it was around the same year that we released the album, and he was awarded the Padma Shri.
Arguably the patriarch of the clan in a sense. I mean, he was seen as such, wasn't he?
Oh, completely. And what the kind of headmaster you would want.
For sure.
Because he, as you said, I mean, all he was interested in was music. I mean, we heard when he passed away, we had gone to the village. People from all age groups, all castes, which is very rare in Rajasthan.
Right.
Coming in, paying respects, and then having stories where you know, my 10-year-old kid was playing gulli danda outside of whatever cricket in the village, and he comes back in the evening singing 3 songs. Like, how did you know these songs? Oh, Sakarba. He was sitting there smoking his bidi, and while he was smoking, he taught these kids some songs. He was that kind of a dude.
And yet his children had to be actually drawn back into the music. I mean, they weren't.
No, not his children. Actually, that was Lakhaji. His children, again, the tragedy was we recorded Sakarji at the age of 72. Released it. That album got 5 stars and top of the ratings by Songlines. Top of the world kind of rating.
Which is basically the definitive magazine and charts for world music in a way. I mean, and they don't just do ratings. They actually listen. They explain why it got the 5-star rating. And Sakarji's album, The At Home, got 5-star.
Yeah. That got 5 stars and top of the world. And I mean, we've got 5 stars also for the Mitha Bol and Banko Ghodo.
Of course.
For that matter. But the point is that what were his recordings and what would have his sound been, you know, at a younger age and so on. It's great that we did this, but it's tragic that, you know, you don't have all this music available, and sadly, not many people are even trying to do this.
And you know, the lost heritage bit of our music is just so tragic because there's just such a variety and such class in it, you know. I mean, as in the pure musicianship of it is just so fantastic. And now, of course, Lakhaji also has, Lakha Khanji, the Sindhi Sarangi maestro, has also got the Padma Shri this year, which is spectacular, isn't it? I mean, finally
he's actually like got the, you know, recognition he deserves, which wasn't there at least for the last, I mean, 8 years ago when we met him, 8-9 years ago when we started working with him.
But you've actually been into the interiors of Rajasthan, and from the conversations that we've had, I do gather that there's been the discrimination, irrespective of all of this, the discrimination is still pretty much a way of life.
It's pretty like routine. So it's like only we as outsiders get pissed or something, you know, right, get agitated with all this. But for all of them, it's just there. Like the translator who had come to Sakarji's place for the interview, story that some reporter was, you know, doing.
Right.
He immediately came in and announced his caste. And, you know, with a glance, Sakarji told his grandson to get a bottle of water, Bisleri, sealed from outside. Now, it's tragic, but it's, you know, that guy is basically getting his income for translation because of Sakarji, but he's of a higher caste, so he can have water only from outside, but not from that house. But he can earn from that house, but he can't have water from that house.
And it's par for the course.
And it's pretty normal for everybody. So it is there, and that, I mean, we get agitated, but we try not to do anything because we are not there for ever, sure, and it's not for our thing to disrupt.
You know, your city
slicker. Get we have that. Always, a lot of people just look at us and say Goro or something, and then we have to tell them in Hindi, Goro nahi, Gurgaon. Haryana, Delhi. So that's.
But you know, that's the thing. I mean, our city slicker instinct would propel us to rebel or do something. But that's the thing that is sort of not being understood enough, that there are greys and you know, life is lived in those greys.
Well, it is not correct, but the fact is that you're not there to fix it, and sure, they are way low down on the food chain, beyond in that structure. So it's not your fight to fight. I mean, because you're not there, you can come and agitate for a day and go back or do something. Eventually, it's their life that will get affected. You know.
That's food for thought.
And so you can't fight somebody else's battle, basically. Sure. You know, in that sense. I mean, you can say it's bad, but wherever it happens in front of us, we don't generally allow, at least I mean, are not trying to be party to that, but because they wonder why you as a higher caste is sitting with them and and eating food in the same plate or something like that. So
realities. But the reality also is that that from the but the reality also is that there was a happy result of the meeting with Rukma Bai, which was Mangi Khan.
Yeah, that was funny because just how that happened. I mean, the story of Bardmer Boys. We had gone to record Rukma Bai, and she calls this guy to accompany her on the harmonium. He calls Mangiya. So he runs over, gets his harmonium, starts playing. We do these 3 recordings. It's the village is like basically it's beyond Bardmer, and it's basically the last village before the border. Right. So you're that corner of Rajasthan and Gujarat and Pakistan.
Wow.
So you're right there at the end. We were at the end of our recordings, 10 days in the desert, in the villages and so on. And then we finish all this, and then this guy on the harmonium says, मैं भी गाता हूँ, मुझे भी record करो. At that moment we were too tired, I think. So and anyways, okay, 2 ही mic हैं, हमने कौन सा कुछ ज़्यादा कुछ करना था. वो 2 mics and some 8 towels. Right. That's all we had for these recording sessions. So we just put them on the other side. Okay, come and record. And we were zapped when we heard him. We did two songs that night. And driving back at some 11:30 from Bardmer back to Delhi, from there, we were thinking like this guy needs a band, because we were just blown by his voice at that point. And took us a year to figure it out, and that's a year later we got in touch with Rais and other guys, and then told them we are forming a band, it's your band. Then got them to debut at so of course nobody would let you give you a space. We decided to have our own thing, the Amaras Desert Music Festival, and then got him to debut with V.A. Farkat Ture.
Yes, absolutely.
So then the story is that we were still debating on the name of the band, and finally now it was the day of the show. So there were 2 days, and the plan was they'll play with VA on both days. So but day 1 we didn't have a name. We are still fighting over it between Ankur and me, trying to figure out, thrashing out names. But day 2 in the morning, we're like, okay, man, Bardmer Boys works, and we don't have much time. And that's how Bardmer Boys happened, the name. And okay, now today's poster will read Bardmer Boys with B.A. Farkat. Because we hated that term Rajasthani, or because when we started getting bookings, as I said, even in the city, because there's no identity of these musicians. We start getting booking, 4 Rajasthani bhej do. I'm like, मतलब आलू है,
राजस्थानी क्या भेजो,
4 केले हैं, क्या राजस्थानी, क्या आप 4, nobody will call up and ask you for 4 French musicians.
For sure.
They'll ask you they'll give a name, or they'll give a sound, or specific somebody sounding like this, or that band, or that artist. This was the generic problem of Rajasthani, this tune from the dune type of sounds.
Absolutely. And then of course from there to Roskild's been a pretty cool journey, and now of course you've gone to the hills. Where Rahmat-e-Nusrat is creating waves now. That's your latest passion, so to speak?
Yeah, not passion or current latest artist. You see, the idea was to first build inroads and then work with more artists. So once you've done all that work of taking artists, whether Bardmer Boys or Lakaji and everybody else abroad and all over, now it's just a matter of now getting more artists and giving them space. Absolutely. And so we met these guys, landed up meeting them basically on terms of they were folk musicians from Kumaoni, Garhwal, and that region. And so they come and we're having this chat, and he's saying, but actually, we are a Qawwali group. And it's called Rahmat-e-Nusrat. So I was like, okay, now the humility of that name of Rahmat-e-Nusrat rather than, NF, one of those.
Or whatever
those kind of name that you would put with Nusrat. Just like got me going. I'm like, this is very interesting. So what do you have? And it was mind blowing, as I said.
Absolutely. And it's been mind blowing. The work that you've been doing, of course, and we thank you for that. And of course, when Rahmat comes in, we'll have you back with us, talking with them as well. So Ashu, thank you very much for the work that you've done and for the music that you've brought us. And thank you for being a part of this podcast.